Recently, artificial intelligence services, such as ChatGPT, have become a major resource for cheating in university. Now, teachers are thinking of new ways to teach classes in order to stop students from cheating with AI. Teachers say they want to use AI to teach and learn in new ways. However, they need to stop students from using the technology on assignments and tests. For some students, that means a return to paper tests instead of online tests. Some teachers will be requiring students to show the editing history and drafts of their work to prove their thought processes. Other teachers, though, think students have always found a way to cheat, and AI is just the newest tool.
The recent growth in the number of AI services has raised many questions for educators. They want students to give correct answers, but also know how to do the work to get to those answers. Educators say there is agreement at least on some of the most pressing challenges they face with AI use. They say it is difficult to identify AI-created schoolwork. They say sometimes students are accused of using AI to cheat when they did not. In some cases, the cheating is clear to see, said Timothy Main, a writing professor at Conestoga College in Canada. He told the Associated Press, "I had answers come in that said, 'I am just an AI language model. I don't have an opinion on that.'" Last semester, Main's writing class had 57 academic honesty cases. Half of them involved use of AI to cheat. This fall, Main and his fellow professors are changing the rules for the writing course. The teachers will ask students to write more about their opinions. They also put in place strong rules against using AI.
College administrators have asked teachers to make the rules more clear. Many universities are letting their professors decide the rules about using AI on their own. At Michigan State University, professors are given several options of statements to choose from, Administrator Bill Hart Davidson told the AP. Asking students questions like, "Tell me in 3 sentences, what is the Krebs cycle in chemistry?" That's not going to work anymore because ChatGPT will spit out a perfectly fine answer to that question, Hart Davidson said. He thinks professors should word their questions differently. Evidence is growing that AI services have changed how students study and find information. Chegg Inc. is an online company that helps students with schoolwork. Its services have been identified in many cheating cases. On May 1st, the company's leader warned that ChatGPT was hurting the business's growth. He said students who were paying for help from Chegg were now using ChatGPT for free instead. The day after he spoke, the company's market value fell by almost 50%.
Bonnie McKellar, a computer science professor at St. John's University in New York City, thinks that there is going to be a move back to paper tests. Her class already had a plagiarism problem, she said, and she worries that new students may not learn the skills needed for more difficult classes. Ronan Takazawa, a sophomore at Colorado College, has never had a computer science exam on paper. He agrees that it would make sure students learn the material. However, Takazawa thinks that students are still not sure when it is all right to use AI and when such use is cheating. Other students say ChatGPT has made them afraid about being unjustly accused of cheating. Arizona State University sophomore Nathan Levang says he checks all his assignments with a tool that helps identify AI material. If it takes me 10 minutes after I write my essay to make sure everything checks out, that's fine, Levang told the AP, adding, "It's extra work, but I think that's the reality we live in." I'm Dominic Varela.
And I'm Katie Weaver. States are reporting that teachers are leaving their jobs in growing numbers. In some cases, retirement is highest among teachers from minority groups. One reason is stress from burnout during the COVID-19 pandemic. Another reason, teachers say, is low pay. And another reason teachers give is what they call the introduction of politics in the classroom. But the stress can be worse in schools serving poor communities that have a lot of minority teachers. Rhonda Hicks is leaving her teaching job in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. She said she loved teaching and loved her students. As a Black woman, she took pride in being a role model for minority children. But growing demands from administrators over what and how to teach made it harder for her to work. When she retires, she will join a disproportionate number of Black and Hispanic teachers in her state who are quitting. "I enjoy actually teaching. That part I've always enjoyed," said the 59-year-old Hicks. "But it's the higher-ups. Do it this way or don't do it at all. That," she said, "was stressful." Philadelphia has one of the highest percentages of Blacks in any major U.S. city. But the number of Black teachers has been falling. 20 years ago, about 1/3 of teachers were Black. Last fall, that percentage fell to below 23%. The Associated Press reports that about 80% of American public school teachers are white. White students, however, are not a majority in public schools. Having teachers who are the race of their students is important, researchers say. The idea is that teachers can provide students with role models who share their culture and life experience. Retirements could affect recent efforts to bring more Black and Hispanic teachers into public schools. New, inexperienced teachers are more likely to quit. Researchers say minority teachers often are affected disproportionately by layoffs. Ed Fuller is an education professor at Pennsylvania State University. In a report, he wrote that Black teachers in Pennsylvania were over 2 times more likely to leave their jobs than white teachers after the 2021-2022 school year. The numbers for Hispanic teachers were similar. They're in more precarious teaching positions, meaning you're in a position with less resources and worse working conditions. So you're more likely to quit no matter who you are, Fuller said. States are reporting different rates of retirement for minority teachers, but Travis Bristol said minority retirement rates have been higher than rates for whites for 20 years. Bristol is an education professor at the University of California, Berkeley. He blamed federal policies from around 20 years ago that began leading to the closure of schools where students repeatedly had low test scores. In poor schools with large populations of Black and Hispanic children, teachers say they have more responsibilities. They also say they have fewer resources and more children who are troubled by poverty and violence. Chantel Simpson is a 36-year-old teacher in Texas who quit teaching after 11 years this spring. She said other minority teachers are leaving because of growing expectations from administrators. They believe we can handle more, Simpson said. So we get fitted with the children who are more challenging or have more requirements. It's crazy. That leaves teachers who deal with difficult children less time for the rest of their students who behave better, Simpson said. I'm Katie Weaver.
During the coronavirus pandemic, many schools struggled to keep a count of students whose families struggled with homelessness. The number of children identified as homeless by schools nationwide dropped by 21% from the 2018-2019 school year to the 2020-2021 school year, federal data found. That decrease represented more than 288,000 students. But it is likely there were many students whose schools did not know they were homeless. By the time Aliyah Ibarra started second grade, her family had moved 5 times in 4 years in search of housing. As she was about to start a new school, her mother, Bridget Ibarra, saw how much it was affecting Aliyah's education. At 8 years old, Aliyah did not know the alphabet. Her family's struggles came during the COVID-19 pandemic, which forced Aliyah to begin school online. Online school was especially hard for Aliyah because she was homeless, and like thousands of other students across the country, her school did not know. By not being identified as homeless, such students lose out on important support like transportation, clothes cleaning services, and other help. 2 years later, the effects have worsened. Students nationwide have struggled to make up for missed learning, and educators have lost important time identifying who needs the most help. Schools are offering services like tutoring and counseling, but schools now have limited time left to spend federal pandemic assistance money for homeless students, said Barbara Duffield. She is director of Schoolhouse Connection, a national homelessness organization. Many education leaders, Duffield said, do not even know about federal money meant to support homeless students. The federal support ends next year. In Bridget Ibarra's case, she chose not to tell the school her children were homeless. She said that teachers never asked. She was worried if officials knew the family was staying in a shelter, the family would face pressure to attend a different school that was closer to the shelter. The stigma that comes with homelessness also can lead families not to tell anyone they do not have housing, Duffield said. If schools cannot identify homeless children, we can't ensure that they have everything they need to be successful in school and even go to school, Duffield added. Aaliyah's school is in Phoenix, Arizona. It continued with online learning for her whole kindergarten year. Aaliyah and her older brother spent most of their school days on computers in a temporary classroom at the shelter. While the shelter helped the family meet their basic needs, Ibarra said she often asked the school for extra help for her daughter. She felt the school was giving all its attention to Aaliyah's older brother because he is a special education student. That means he has been identified as needing extra educational support. The school's principal, Sean Hannafin, said school officials met often with the children's mom. He said they offered the support they had available. But he said it was hard to know online which students required more help. There is a federal law aimed at making sure homeless students have equal access to education. The law provides rights and services to children without a fixed, regular, and adequate nighttime residence. Many students are not identified as homeless when they sign up for school. At school, teachers or other school workers often notice students who may be dealing with difficulties at home. But with children learning online, teachers often could not see signs of problems. Overall, the drop in the student homelessness count began before the pandemic, but it became greater when the pandemic began. The percentage of enrolled students identified as homeless in the U.S. dropped from 2.7% in 2018-2019 to 2.2% in 2020-2021. Over that time, Arizona had one of the biggest drops in the number of students identified as homeless. Eventually, Bridget Ibarra had to send Aaliyah to a different school after moving to find new housing. At Aaliyah's new school, Fry Elementary, Principal Alexis Cruz Freeman saw how hard it was to communicate with families when children were not in classrooms. Aaliyah has improved at her new school, Cruz Freeman said. She still has trouble saying and reading some words. But by the end of the school year, she was able to read a text and write 4 sentences based on its meaning. She is also performing at her grade level in math. Cruz Freeman considers Aaliyah a success story in part because of her mother's support. She was an advocate for her children, which is all that we can ever ask for, Cruz Freeman said. I'm Dan Novak.